Welcome to the JAMODI podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is JAMODI, just a matter of doing it. Coaches, the JAMODI podcast is powered by Biology. What's your BSA score? The Biology Skills Assessment is the only verified skills metric endorsed by the NAIA, NJCAA, and a growing number of NCAA coaches to discover and develop the best talent for your team. This 4-minute, 40-shot test can be taken free today on the Biology mobile app. Elevate your game. Well, I love getting to ask coaches who they listen to, who they follow, because there's probably a lot of coaches out there that you're that guy for them, and they're constantly following you on social media, looking to see what you're into. But who are you learning from? Who do you follow?
I used to be a big Vince Lombardi guy, back in the day, my early days, but I've kind of changed over the years. Now there's still some great things. I still have a thing that's right here by my computer with a Vince Lombardi quote, but that was kind of a win at all cost deal. And I've changed throughout my career, that's not necessarily the case. And so as much respect as I have for Coach Lombardi, I still read his stuff and look at his stuff. I think obviously I follow, the guys that I'm close with. Chris Beard's, personal friend of mine that he's done well. We communicate a lot. I follow all his stuff. Joe Golding, my former boss here, I follow his stuff. I'm a big Greg Popovich guy. I look into all his stuff, and kind of the outside the box one is I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I was listening to a podcast, and I think Defining Mastery. I'm always leadership stuff, and I'm always searching for stuff like that. And they had an interview with a guy by the name of Jack Clark, who is the rugby coach at Berkeley.
Oh.
And it's pretty amazing, man. And so I've been locked into that guy ever since I heard that podcast. If he's doing something, I try to listen to it. If he's written something, I try to read it. And it's not the dude. He's been doing this for 41 years. He's won 21 national titles. And the biggest thing is, I think, a guy that's done it for 41 years, has had to adjust, right? So coaching players 41 years ago is not the same as coaching players today. And to have success over that long period of time, the dude's figured something out, right?
Yeah.
And he's learned how to adapt. And so that's kind of why that's somebody I admire. I've never spoken to the man in my life, never met him. I would love to someday. But just like I said, I just the other day, I was actually on their website, just looking at their team stuff. You know what I mean? Kind of, it's a weird thing, but it's something. Winners win, and it crosses all sports.
That's right.
Leaders are leaders.
Does. Yeah.
And I try to read everything I can, and so if I can read something, then I read it. If it has something to do with culture, I'm going to read it.
I like that. I like what you said too about how winning is hard, and it's special when anybody wins at the highest level, a championship. Like, that's incredible. But to do it over different decades, to have sustained success, you got to look at that, because even in basketball, you look back over the 80s and 90s, some of those coaches that were winning at a high clip, it was almost like they hit a wall where kids and the times were changing, and maybe they chose not to. And so that's what makes, to me, Coach K so intriguing, is how over 4 decades, he was able to change with the times and coach differently and change his philosophy. One thing you said, you followed Vince Lombardi, but then the winning at all costs, over the years you've changed. Go into that a little bit of what made you change from that philosophy.
Honestly, I think just time. But working for Joe Golding, who's now at UTEP, really helped me with that. He's a close personal friend, and they, everybody told us and warned us not to work together because we're friends. They thought it would hurt our friendship, and we had our tough times, of course. But I think he was a guy that allowed me to reconnect, with just understanding there's more to it. You know what I mean? Than just winning.
Mm-hmm.
And I think just spending the 8 years I did with him, I started to learn a lot. He wasn't even trying to teach me. It's just me watching him and how he built relationships and how he cared about the players and how it was more than just basketball, because we didn't win early. And it wasn't. And that was where I'm sitting here going, oh my God, I was coming from Stephen F. Austin where we had won championships and gone to the NCAA tournament. And I'm sitting here struggling because we're not winning. He was kind of somebody who helped me understand that, it's more about the process, than it is about just winning championships. And that's one of the things that Jack Clark talks about. He talks about it's, some guy, he says a goblet, but a trophy is not necessarily the end all, man. Yeah, it's great. We want to win it. But it's about the whole process of getting to that point that's more important.
Man, thank you for sharing that, because I do love getting to learn from leaders in different sports. And I think it's a great idea to venture outside. Excellence it translates.
Right.
It's not just about that one sport. You mentioned being friends with Coach. How was that working together? Any challenges? Because I'm assuming there's a lot of coaches out there that may have a really good friend on staff that you might be able to help out a little.
Yeah, we had our challenges like you would have with any boss, assistant coach, whatever. It helped. I think I give him the most credit for this because he never treated me like his assistant. He truly treated me like a head coach, and he didn't have to do that. And that helped probably me more than him. But I think the biggest thing was, we had to fight through those hard times, but we did a great job. And I don't know how we did it. I wish I could tell you how we did it, but of separating the office from our personal life. Our wives were friends. Our kids were friends. They still are, of course. And when we left the office, man, and we went and I sat on his back porch and we're having dinner, very rarely did we talk about the issues that we were having at work. We talked about, we would talk, not saying we never talked basketball, but it would be something completely different. If we had a problem, man, we left it at the door and we picked it back up, the next day when we showed up. And so I think that was probably the best thing that we ever did was we just somehow I wish I could say this is why we did it or how we did it, but we just found a way to just leave it. And I think that was because our friendship was deeper than our working relationship.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the JAMODI podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.